Hey everyone, welcome to Business Unchained, where entrepreneurs and business owners come together to power up on their journey to greatness.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any financial decisions. Clients of Greenridge Wealth Planning may maintain positions in any securities discussed in this podcast.
All right, guys, episode 7. A true entrepreneur that felt the itch early on when he was cutting neighbors' grass for money. He now owns a manufacturing facility that ships products to 13 countries, owns multiple businesses with green tech and cannabis space, and is the author of multiple publications surrounding green tech education. This guy's been featured in Times, LA Times, Fortune, New York Times, Newsweek, USA Today, CNN, Money, and the list goes on. I bring to you former U.S. rugby player and super green entrepreneur, George Irwin.
Bravo, yay. Okay, you can turn off the clap sign now. So, huge crowd.
So, dude, I know we were just talking about tissue culture in the space, and I'd love to get into that a little bit. I obviously want to talk about how many times you watched Rocky IV as you prepared to battle the Russians in your U.S. versus Russia rugby match back when you were 26. And there's a number of other topics that I think we can break into given your background, but
I have a life that would rival Forrest Gump. I've done it. I've been there. Don't tell me I can't do it, because I will prove you wrong. Long story short, just like I said earlier, I'm a kid from New Jersey. I didn't want to be the landscaper. I wanted to own the business. And I take direction well if there's something to learn from it, but I don't take direction well as an employee or a subordinate, right? Because that's how I started my career. At the end of the day, I started off cutting grass, to your point. By the time I was in my mid-20s, I had 20-something employees, put myself through college, not once, but twice, got a degree in adapted phys ed, and fell in love with education. I love teaching, but I can't make a living teaching.
No.
So the agriculture piece comes from my days as a landscaper and a landscape contractor. I like to be creative. I just used a medium that was living plants and made beautiful landscapes. Learned about how plants grow, learned about soil biology, and basically reinvented agriculture. So when I was in my late 20s, I had an opportunity to get involved in the green roof market. Everybody says, what's a green roof?
I was just about to ask you that question.
It's really a century-old technology that's been used even before the Icelandic age, where they put grass on a roof to insulate buildings and things like that. We've just taken it to a more modern era. So we've created products to create rooftop parks and amenity space on top of buildings. New York City is a perfect example. Everybody has amenity space, okay? But now we add a modern flair to it. I got involved in green roofs, worked with a couple companies out of Germany.
So do you find that most of the work that's going on up there, is it just aesthetic? Does it have, are they like small farm-like pieces where you're growing fruit and vegetables, or where do you see that trend headed?
I can write a dissertation on where the benefits are and green roofs in general. Okay, so green roofs could be anything from rooftop farms to amenity space where you can have like a park-like setting, or you could just have a very low maintenance, what we call extensive green roof, which can help with stormwater retention, stormwater mitigation, heat, island effect, and things of that nature. But it's an investment. It's hard to get a building owner to invest in that technology. Okay. I got involved in the green roof industry, working with some companies in Germany, and said, hey, listen, if you do it this way, it would be much more economical, be more efficient. And they just thought I was crazy. Some kid from the US, who the hell is he? So that was my very first patent. So I came back, and then I had to teach myself how to get a patent. I didn't have a patent lawyer do it. I had to teach myself how to do it. Not having a lot of money, you find ways to get it done. Then I took the green roof and I put it on a slope. Then the next thing you know, I put it on a wall and invented the living wall.
So what was the purpose behind putting it on the slope, not keeping it flat? What did you hope the benefit would be?
Trying to expand my market in the green roof industry. There's a lot of sloped roofs out there.
Okay, so it was really just to meet the market.
That's right. Let's try and meet the market. Let's see how we can approach all of these sloped roofs. And then who knew, when we hung it on a wall, everything grew. So, oh my God, how cool would this be to be able to grow vegetables? That was my very first living wall. We were trying to market it as vertical agriculture.
Okay.
Vertical agriculture is a big deal right now, but they use things like stacking shelves. No, ours is truly vertical. Our vertical agriculture is more like a bookshelf, okay, where you walk down aisles and aisles of produce.
What was the drive to this? Like what really got you the passion, going from I'm owning a landscaping company to now I'm in the green space, I'm building these?
Industry disruption. When a new player comes into the industry with new ideas, everybody's got to have it.
So was this you disrupting, or did somebody come and disrupt your way of thinking?
It was me disrupting, but nobody likes to be disrupted.
No.
They like the old way of things.
Calm, easy, keep it the same, status quo.
Nope, not me. I got to come in and smack the bee's nest. But it's allowed me to also predict markets. I predict my markets for 5 years in advance from day one. I'm almost like a future storyteller or a gypsy who can tell you what's going to happen in the next 5 years with my businesses. And true to this word, everything has happened as I predicted. I almost feel like The Simpsons predicting the future. The living wall became a hit when we started putting decorative plants in it. We've done some vertical farms, but it's hard to get people to think outside the box. It's hard to get them to understand what the benefits are and educate them on the difference between growing truly organic and growing like in a hydroponic setting and what the real wastes are and the impacts to environment. There's a lot of greenwashing in my business. Okay. Greenwashing is selling you something that has a benefit, but in reality, it's hurting the environment instead of helping it.
Okay.
So people don't like me for certain reasons. I am very outspoken in social media. And I'm going to be blunt with you. If you put shit in the marketplace, I am going to call it shit in public media, but I will teach you why it's shit.
Right. It's not just shit to be shit.
No, I'm not stepping on your parade. If you have a legitimate product, kudos to you, man. I want to know how you did that. But when you're impeding on the marketplace as a money grab, that's not right.
No, it's not right.
And I'm going to tell you.
Well, you see a lot of that going on in all different industries, right?
It does. But then, vertical agriculture led me to cannabis. We built a vertical farm for basil for Ledestri Foods in Rochester, New York, one of the largest spaghetti sauce manufacturers in the world. They were bringing in their basil from South America and losing almost 70% of their produce. So I said, listen, the cost ratio between what you're shipping versus building it out, this is your payback. So we built a 3,000 square foot vertical farm just for basil.
Oh, wow.
At the time, Rochester, New York in general, was allowing medical cannabis. And Ledestri wanted to get involved. And I was like, no way. I want nothing to do with it. I grew up, as a kid in the 80s with your brain on drugs. I never did a drug in my life. Never mind smoked marijuana.
Say no to drugs.
Same year.
Just say no.
Yeah, same year. My 17-year-old at the time was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So kind of hit home a little bit. At the time, we were experimenting with some of the agricultural practices of growing cannabis with acreage holdings. Acreage is one of the big MSOs in the country right now. And I learned and I started to make a network and started to teach myself how to grow cannabis in our walls. So it became very interesting because we were getting almost 10x the yields growing in our configuration than a traditional cannabis farm growing in horizontal.
So what's the process for going through that, right? You have this idea, you want to grow it, how do you determine success? What are the measures what are you actually going through in this process? What does your day-to-day look like?
I sell it and then I figure it out. The cannabis operation, just like our living walls, we play around with different configurations. And these are the expectations I have. I need this to drain perfectly. I need the soil to stay in the wall. I need the plant to perform to these expectations. And once we reach that on a small scale, then we expand to a much larger trial. And then eventually we sell it and we do it on a big scale.
So landscaping to agriculture and growing these rooftop green spaces to now cannabis, that's quite an evolution.
It is, but it continues to evolve because everybody grows cannabis. There's so many multi-state operators, acreage holdings we've worked for Columbia Cares, contract growers. And then actually I met my business partner, Phyllis Laka from Masterpiece Advertising. I went in there for a rebrand for my green tech space. Mm-hmm. And it kind of evolved into a friendship and a business relationship. And I said, Phyllis, you should get involved in marketing cannabis. She was like, no freaking way. I don't want nothing to do with it. So the end of the day, here
I
we are.
wanted to see if she was smiling.
She's laughing. She knows. So here we are 7 years later, right? So we got into the application pool in New Jersey for medical. We were somewhat inexperienced, but we dove head first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we didn't get the
Now,
medical.
what was that process like? Because I've heard nightmares. I think people have viewpoints of who's in cannabis, you know, the big dogs, and then you've got a bunch of stoners. I feel like that's the common thought.
Let me tell you, I can't stand the culture. Okay. You have a combination of highly educated business people, very successful in other sectors, but then you have the pothead. It's a wide range of cultures, and it's very difficult sometimes on a lot of levels. And we'll get to that in a second.
All right.
But I got involved in cannabis because of my son. I called somebody from our network in California, and she said, "You're going to go to this dispensary in Colorado." So I took a one-way ticket to Denver, went to this dispensary with 10 grand in cash, walked out of there with $10,000 in Rick Simpson oil. Then she told me where to go to get a rental car. It's a whole network. So the rental car had out-of-state plates, so I didn't get stopped. Mm-hmm. She gave me the route on how to get back to New York. And I drove for 4 days back to New York with $10,000 in cannabis oil. My son, after only 2 PET scans, was cancer-free.
It's amazing.
It still bothers me a lot that I think sometimes nobody really recognizes what you do for your kid as a dad. Now he's 26 and he's our youth liaison. He's a little frustrated that he's not more involved in the business, but he still has a lot of learning to do.
Oh, yeah.
But that was my experience with cannabis. And I said, oh my God, where I got his cannabis oil was...
I mean, you probably would have driven down to Mexico if that was the, you know.
I would have walked to Mexico.
I mean...
I would have walked to Mexico. End of the day, I got to get involved in this business because where I got his cannabis, it was a shithole. It was algae ridden. It was disease ridden. It wasn't medicine. So we tried to get into the New Jersey market originally. This is 7 years ago. And we had an opportunity to go to Maine. So we were able to secure licensing in Maine. So we built out a 14,000 square foot facility with the focus on tissue culture. Okay.
All right. So let's get back to what's tissue culture. There we go.
Tissue culture.
Way to bring it around full circle. I love it.
Tissue culture is where we're propagating plants from the single most newest cell called a meristem. Okay. The meristem of a plant is not connected to the vascular system, so it allows us to be able to harvest that single cell before it becomes infected with any disease or viroids.
So if we're trying to visualize the plant, where is this?
The single most newest cell of the newest growth.
Down in the root.
It could be the tip of the root, but it can also be the apex of the plant itself.
Gotcha.
But you have to get it under a microscope. You have to peel back the primordial leaves, and actually it's a very detailed process. You may only harvest 10 meristems a day, and you may only get 1 to grow. But once you get that 1 to grow, it's infinite propagation. So we maintain all of our plants in a lab, in a test tube or a petri dish. And
so it seems almost like the way that bakers would do it with yeast.
Right. Exactly.
You know, keeping the same strain of yeast. And
we decide as a business model, it's not in our best interest to grow and compete with all the growers. Why not make all the growers our customer? Let's sell them the clean plant stock. We have the only subscription service in the entire world. You're a grower. You have a 12-month subscription with our facility. We're going to guarantee you clean and disease-free stock every month. We're going to deliver them to you. Now you could take what used to be your mother room, which is disease-ridden. It's a risk. It's a risk factor. And now you could turn that into a profit center and continue to grow more product. So it's in your best financial interest to work with us on that subscription model.
So is it the strain of the plant that differentiates one grower from the next, or is it just the quantity that they get put out? Does it really matter? What's
the quality of your end product really is determined on the initial plant stock. And we're providing you basically a newborn plant every month. Okay, compared to let's just say an old worn out senior citizen.
So a lot of that's going to have to end up being, if most of them are your customers, then Phyllis has got to do the job of creating the Coke versus Pepsi.
She does. She makes pretty pictures, puts some cool logos on it, makes some great video. And, I'm the tech guy. We differ You know, it's hard having a partner. We differ on some points of view and where we should be moving forward and how. But at the end of the day, I do a good job predicting my markets.
Now, how do you resolve that? Because I think, if we look at our audience here today, it's mostly going to be entrepreneurs, business owners in all different phases.
Well,
And they're probably ones that have partners. What are some of the conflict resolution techniques that you guys use? How do you guys come to the table and say, all right, while we don't agree here, this is how we're going to get to a point where we're moving forward?
Phyllis is always the voice of reason. I am full steam ahead. But when my feet hit the ground, I go from 0 to 100 that quick. And I want to do things now. I want to move it through quickly. My biggest frustration is not with my partner, as far as the cannabis goes. It's the people who we have to rely on, not our employees, but third-party individuals, some funding sources, politicians, legislation. It's very, very difficult industry. This is not for the faint of heart. This is a financial juggernaut. You better be prepared. You want to get into cannabis, you better have a financial backing and be able to play the game for 15 to 20 years.
Out of all of that, what's the biggest thing that kind of keeps you up at night and gets you most concerned about tomorrow? Being able to forecast that future.
Yeah, not getting to market fast enough. Okay, it's a very slow moving market as far as being able to develop. Okay, I always say, you got to be first to market in everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you need to set the precedent. You need to do it big. You need to do it a splash, and you need to spend money to do that. Well, Phyllis and I are 100% self-funded. Okay, now you're going into an industry that requires millions and millions and millions of dollars. We have a $25 million redevelopment project just to build our building. Okay, we're going to be the Planet 13 of Atlantic City. You're going to see this amazing, amazing building and experience when you pull into Atlantic City right at the beginning of the city. It's the city of sin. Well, God dang it, let's sin. But
So what's the image for this building? $25 million building.
$25 million, 4 stories, all the bells and whistles. You're going to come in. You're going to walk into an amazing dispensary that has a music theme. Every time you go into our store, it's going to be like a concert. Right?
Okay.
We're going to have a rooftop park where you can overlook Atlantic City from the Bayside. You're going to be able to pull your boat up. It's waterfront. So we're going to have the only waterfront dispensary and tissue culture lab in the entire world, which is really cool. Well, maybe not in the world, but at least in New Jersey. Now,
is there anything in the legislation that opens up, now you have these dispensaries, right? There's obviously a process when you go in to making sure that you're able to buy it, to purchasing it, to leaving and going to enjoy it in the confines of your own home. Is there anything in the legislation that's going to allow you in this building to have almost like a bar culture that you could set up? Is there anything in the works now for that?
Well, you can have a lounge. We'll have lounges where you can socialize. Instead of alcohol, you can have cannabis. We're going to have a rooftop park on top of our building for our VIPs. We're going to have tastings, like you do a flight of beer.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a small flight of cannabis.
Okay.
Right. We want it to be an experience, but we want it to be accessible to everybody. It's going to be a recreational facility, not a medical facility. But I will guarantee you, it will be boutique style products that you cannot get anywhere else in New Jersey, because our tissue culture operation in Maine right now, we house 160 different cultivars or flavors,
mm-hmm.
and 90% of them are nowhere to be found in New Jersey. So that's also the benefit of having a tissue culture operation, is we have access to more strains than anybody else in New Jersey.
It's unbelievable.
So it's exciting. It's exciting, but it's very frustrating. Again, I'm dealing on a political level, dealing with what zone the building can be in, trying to get it rezoned. And I'll be honest, it's like pulling teeth.
Oh, it's a pain in the ass.
Oh my God, listen, I'm getting like, we're tired.
Every municipality is worse than the other.
And every time you turn around, you're going to another event and you got to write a check and hope to get somebody's ear to be able to operate in their town.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest frustration in cannabis, And listen, there's my frustrations in the green tech space. We're getting ripped off, people stealing your IP, right? That's another big issue. We're not a franchise, right? But my green tech space, I got 1,200 reps in 13 countries. I own a small piece of the manufacturing, just to say we make our own products. But we ship to 13 countries, and I have a subcontractor out of Toronto who satisfies the Canadian market for us because of the taxes going back and forth. It's crazy.
So let me ask you a quick question, right? You are obviously very vocal in terms of getting involved in publications and getting yourself out there, like the podcast that we're doing right now.
Yeah, first of all, let me back up. I found this more exciting because it wasn't about how we do what we do. It was about how we got to where we are.
Yep.
Right. And for those who are listening and you are an entrepreneur, I have one word of advice, one sentence of advice. Pull your pants up and go to work. So that's all I have for you. Some of it's going to work. Some of it's not.
Most of it's not.
Right. Don't stop.
So you have, you get out here, you're shaking hands, you're kissing babies, you're running multiple businesses. What are some of the things that you think are making you the most successful in being able to do that? Because I think most people look at running multiple businesses and they go, oh yeah, I can do that. And then they start to dip their toe in the water and they realize, well, if I'm not spending time over here and I'm not spending time here, how do I touch over here? What have you found to be like your recipe to success to be able to do that?
What's your taste for risk? What's your taste for tolerance, right? Surround yourself with better people. I taught myself tissue culture. I know enough to go into the lab and to do it, but can I do it to scale? No, I don't want to. So I know enough to interview.
Enough to be dangerous.
Key people. Bring in the key people. Pay them an amazing salary. Make them want to stay. Make them want to help build your business, right? Make them part of the family. Working with my partner, Phyllis, she's grounded me so many times, it's not even funny, okay? You have to trust in the people, right? We've gone through 3 store managers at our facility in Maine, and we have a super, Michael Gemma has been absolutely amazing. Okay. Let him deal with the employees. He has chosen some amazing employees to work there. Okay. Phyllis oversees the retail. I oversee the tech. We all have our space. Okay. You got to surround yourself with good people who can do things better than you. And there's no ego here. You know, I've been on a global stage in so many different arenas, whether it be athletics or business or doing the keynote at the University of Greenwich in London. You know, it takes a lot of balls to be in business, as you know.
Yeah.
How many franchises do you have?
I have 18 locations, manufacturing facility. I have this phenomenal wealth management practice. I'm building this podcast. So
what came first?
Wealth management.
Okay.
That came first. I grew up from nothing to we manage about $350 million in assets.
Because you know this isn't just about me. We're people got to know your story too.
Oh, I'm loud. I'm loud like you. I tell my story all the time. I just like, I find it so interesting because I'm reading about you.
What? Okay.
Getting ready, right? This is my prep. I'm sitting down, I'm reading, and I'm going, oh my God, there's so many questions I have. There's nothing on this page that's answering 100 million questions that are going through my head. And I think that's a lot of people who sit there, they have the questions, they don't ask them. Because you've obviously become successul for a reason.
But define success, though. What is success? Is it monetary? Is it what you've done for the community? Because that's a whole nother story.
I do want to touch on that because I know that education is a huge passion of yours and giving back. Mm-hmm. But I think success is, obviously everybody defines success as something different. And I think that the people who have success in the form of money start to realize that, you know what, it's not all about the money. It's kind of about how you find fulfillment in your life. And I also look at success as somebody who's able to consistently move the ball forward, no matter how many times the ball gets kicked backward, you're still going after that ball to try to move it forward. And that to me is as simple as success could be.
Like any successful entrepreneur, I've been kicked so many times. I've had people steal from me, whether trying to knock off my IP, somebody getting a license before we did when we clearly deserved it. Who paid off this one? I mean, listen, you can go to Wharton, you can go to any business school in the country. They're never going to give you the real education on what it's like to be an entrepreneur.
No.
Never in a million years.
You have to feel that. You have to wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweats. You have to have the
tossing and turning,
the blood flow through your teeth and the grit and determination. You've got to be able to kind of go after it. You can't sit there and wait for it to come.
But it's also the passion. You got to believe in what you do and like what you do, right? You have 1 million franchises. Maybe not 1 million, but are you passionate about your franchises?
I love it.
Okay.
I love the people. I love being able to.
You wake up one day and say, I'm going to buy a franchise.
Well, that's a longer story, but.
And then one led to 2, then it led to 3, right? So
my, I would say one of the earlier pieces of advice that I got when I was younger, and it was in the form of an analogy of, you think that Frank Sinatra goes and he carries all of his equipment. He books the venue. He's the guy who's, making sure that all the tickets are collected. And then he gets up, he tunes the microphones, makes sure that everybody's on stage, and then he starts singing. No, when Frank Sinatra goes in, it requires his entire team to put it all together. So he just has to grab the microphone and sing. Everyone who does what they do is the best at what they do, and he's the best at what he does. And that's very similar to what you were saying in terms of how you're going to be successful and run multiple businesses, run multiple multiple countries. You're doing that because you're finding everybody who's really the best at what they do, and you treat them well, and you put them in the right place.
Well, and then on top of that, you're a people pleaser. I am.
That's your new job.
I want everybody to be happy.
Yep.
I want everybody to be part of the upside of what we're doing. I want everybody to be able to take ownership to what we're doing.
All right. Ownership in what they're doing. I always wanted to talk to you about one of the biggest issues that I see in the cannabis industry from people who are clients of ours that are trying to navigate financially in this complex financial world, meaning you've got federally, it's not legal, state by state, it's legal. How do you manage around the federal system with all of these, relationships and places without killing yourself?
Phyllis is a much more sophisticated communicator. Me, I'm in your face. And that's how I operate. I want it now, and this is how I want it. Okay, Phyllis is a little more maturing or massaging when it comes to getting things done.
She dresses it up.
So when it comes to the federal banking issues, right, we've actually had an account with a bank, and out of nowhere, they said, you know what, come get your money, we're going to close you down. Out of nowhere. Where the heck are we supposed to bank? I went ballistic. We tried other banks. We finally found a credit union that would take our money. And me, I would have been like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus. But here you go. Phyllis, of course, sends them a gift basket and all these goodies and prizes. And now they love her, right? Whenever she calls now.
Smart.
The federal banking, if they would just let us put our money in the bank and let us take credit cards. Okay, we're a bit different. Our company, we put every single dollar in the bank, okay, because I am not going to jail for tax evasion on something that I have really no passion as far as a product. My passion is in helping people. That's my passion. But I am not going to jail for tax evasion. So we put every dollar in the bank. If the feds would just let us do normal banking, they would make so much more money.
So is that why you do a lot of your self-funding? Like, how do you? I mean, most of the time when you're making that money and you've got to put it to work because you're doing R&D and you're doing new product development. What's kind of been your way of making it work
from day one, right? Going out there looking for money. Let's just say 7 years ago, it was easy to get money. Everybody wanted to get into cannabis. It was easy.
Oh, everyone.
It was so easy to get money. And then there was a bunch of IPOs that tanked. Okay, people became a little more weary. And then they were investing private money into these small, mom and pop shops who eventually ended up going under. So it was bad money spent under bad management, right? It was a huge risk. In today's investment world, the investors are much more savvy now. Okay, so for people like Phyllis and I who have a 5-year track record of being profitable and operations and our SOPs work, everything is solid. We are at the point of exponential growth in our cannabis industry. Going out and finding investor money, whether it be institutional or private money, they're much more savvy, right? They want to give us, they would lend us money on equipment, but not so much as not an equity. They would give us debt investment, right? Which is fine. We do have a $20 million credit line that we can tap, but we're not ready to tap it. We're savvy, right? But going out and finding money is very hard. In New Jersey, everybody gets a conditional. And people were raising $1, $2, $3 million based on that conditional. But the problem is these same people were not educated business people to be able to take that money and parlay it into the actual license. I say it was kind of a bait and switch, right? The state gave all of these, we'll just say at-risk populations, a cannabis conditional license, but there was no way they were ever going to convert that license into that conditional license into a real license. They're just not savvy. They didn't have the background. They didn't have the financial needs. It's a financial juggernaut. Keep that in mind. Our business model is much different. You know, Phyllis and I have the means and the capabilities to go through that first stage. We have a $25 million raise going on right now for a $25 million redevelopment project. Okay, we're close. We have our license. Okay, so it's a little easier for us to go talk to people like a Benzinga, where it's an investment conference down in Miami. Okay, we will get the attention because we actually have the license. If you have a conditional, well, come back to me when you have the license. Our business model is no different than I did with my green roof and wall business, right? We have a product. We have a business model. Let's teach people how to do what we do and be their partner, not a franchise. But you want to get into a dispensary, it's going to cost you $1 million. But we will partner with you and we will guarantee you product. We will give you the SOPs. We will partner and help you manage and teach you how to run that operation so that you're successful. If you're successful, we're successful.
So is that a consulting arrangement, or is
No,
that you buy our product and we'll help you and let's have this mutually
we're
beneficial?
a partner. We're an equity partner in your dispensary.
Okay.
It's in our best interest to help you manage that until you could stand on your own 2 feet. And we'll guarantee you product. You'll have to buy our product, of course. You can buy other people's product, and we will. You have to have different brands. You can't be monochromatic when it comes to selling brands in your dispensary. People want variety. But we will guarantee you really nice high-end boutique style.
Okay.
Instead of the bottom of the barrel that these MSOs are selling you. All right. So
I want to talk a little bit because you mentioned teaching. And I know that teaching, it comes at the heart of who you are, what you went to school for, what you did early on. There's a lot that you have in not only teaching people who are in the cannabis industry and getting them geared for success, but there's also that give back portion that you have a passion behind.
100%. I come from a I don't want to say impoverished home, but we weren't upper middle class. Okay. We didn't have money to send me to school. Thank God I was a good athlete. That was my ticket to go to school.
What was what sport?
Football.
And
then I ended up playing lacrosse too, which, by the way, you 1989ers, 15-0. No one's ever duplicated what we've done. So.
We didn't even have it when I was in school.
I didn't either. So I had a chance to play a second sport in college. And long story short, the head coach, Tim Sullivan, God bless you, rest in peace. He says, old Irish guy says, "Hey, Georgie," I was in his class. He says, "Listen, I'm going to give you a helmet and a stick. I just need you to clear the crease." So I couldn't catch. I couldn't throw. I was the goon, right? So I played 4 years of lacrosse, and I finally learned how to catch and throw. But even on clears, they wouldn't throw me the ball. So anyway, but my football was my job. Lacrosse was fun.
Gotcha.
So I went to school to be a phys ed teacher. I got a degree in adapted phys ed. I really enjoyed working with people with disabilities, whether you were blind or you were quadriplegic.
And for those who are listening and don't see, he's built like a brick shithouse. Well, he's not like the old school gym teachers that you remember from. I wish
I could make a living teaching. But my very first article that I wrote, I wrote an article for a phys ed journal. It was a methodology on how to test for cardiovascular capabilities in a high-level quadriplegic. So I invented a test, and I wrote about it. It was just, again, from day one, I've always thought outside the box. How can we do this? There's got to be a solution. How do you do it? How do you figure it out? So that was my experience as a teacher. But I couldn't afford to teach. So I kept my landscaping business. But I have a master's in curriculum writing and wrote grants for Dr. Lauren Lieberman and SUNY Brockport, and moved on to my entrepreneurial career like for good. Like, this is what I was doing, right? But I said, oh my God, I need people, but I can't afford to hire them, right? I invested all my money in manufacturing this living wall and green roof. Mm-hmm. So what do? I'm going to have classes where you got to pay to sit in my class.
Okay.
So I set up a network where, listen, I put it out there into the internet, and people paid $1,500 a person to sit in my class for 3 days to learn what we did in green roofs and walls. And we did a hands-on activity. I'd have 50, 60 people at a time.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
okay.
Cha-ching.
Yeah.
There's my money. There's my revenue source. And then those people became my independent contractors. You teach them how to work on your product, they're going to come back to keep working on your product. It's like the Apple model, right? We give you the computer in school, learn how to use the Apple computer. And then the kids, as you get older, you're going to buy Apple products.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Same thing in my living walls, green roofs. I taught people how to do what we do and managed now almost 1,200 reps in 13 countries. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to Turkey. I've been to India. I can't tell you how many keynotes and speeches I've given about what we do. But the same model, I had an opportunity to give a lecture at the Discovery High School in the Bronx, New York. And this classroom had 43% attendance, 93% when we got done with it, but nobody showed up to school. So we implemented a 4-year degree curriculum in this high school. And the very first thing we did, I said, listen, let's do this. We're going to take these kids on my dime and bring them to my office in Boston with a good friend of mine, Janice Goodman from Cityscapes. And we spent 4 days teaching these kids how to do what we do. I said, oh my God, this was freaking awesome. You got to take the kids out of the environment that's causing the problem, bring them somewhere where they show them where life could be like, what life is supposed to be like, and how you can teach them skills to become part of society.
Get them out of that environment.
I built a whole curriculum based on teaching these young people about green technologies, but it was also about managing money. It was creating bank accounts, becoming OSHA certified, so that when you graduated high school, you can go on to any job site in the world, make 26, 28 bucks an hour pushing a broom, and move on to the next skill. To this day, Jonathan Colazzo, I hope you're listening. Now they're sending me pictures of their kids. These kids are so appreciative, every single one of them. That kind of caught on, and ABC, NBC, and some of the talk shows got a wind of what we were doing. And before you know it, my God, we're on every major morning show in New York City. So it's pretty cool. Again, just a kid from New Jersey. I'm humble. But don't tell me I can't do something. Let me tell you something. Excuse my language. If I'm 100% right, you're fucked. If it's 99, I'll back off a little bit. But no, that's my real passion. So that's what we've done time and time and time again. I've had so many different high school and at-risk populations. You could have been incarcerated. I don't care. If you're willing to work and you're willing to learn, let's do it.
How do you pick who you spend time with?
They pick me.
Yeah?
Yeah. They have to show an interest. I don't go out of my way looking for people who want to learn what we're doing. Matter of fact, I'm working right now on a project. I'm not going to name names, but we're working on a potential, another almost like a Wynwood Walls project with at-risk populations in Miami. I don't know if anybody knows what Wynwood Walls is.
I was just about to say, why don't we talk a little bit?
Yeah, Wynwood Walls is an entire community of art and artists where they actually do graffiti and all kinds of cool art on all the walls in these courtyards. I just got approached last Friday by, believe it or not, by a college colleague of mine who's a very well-known artist. He's got a little bit of funding behind him, and he's very interested in doing something along the lines of what we did. Like in LA, we built vertical farms for the homeless. We did a project down in Haiti for a school. We taught the kids how to do vertical farming because they could only go to school for half a day because they didn't have food for lunch. So we teach them how to grow food, and now they're in school all day. So those are the kind of projects we get involved in. It's unbelievably rewarding. I love teaching, and I love the feedback that we get.
Well, that's got to give you a little bit of a tool of verification to say what I'm doing is working. Because if you're not getting the good feedback, sometimes you could fall into that. What am I doing here? Am I making an impact?
Well, listen, we do a lot. I know, I brag about Phyllis all the time, right? Every Tuesday, she feeds the nuns at the local church, right? And sends food down for the homeless. But that's what you do. When you become successful, however you define success, you have to start giving back. And it might not just be monetarily. You give your time. No matter, pick something, give your time, no matter what it is. And yes, there is a marketing piece to it, but don't make that your focus. Don't do something because you want a marketing piece.
No.
Okay. Do something because now you can impact. I mean, my passion is always like the high school generation. Show them. High school's a good time. You should be enjoying it. You should be able to look forward to the next stages in life.
And to some people, that's the best stage of life they'll ever experience. And to others, it's the worst stage. It's a really difficult age because this is when you're supposed to figure out
I am lucky.
who you're going to be.
Yeah, I am so lucky. You know, I graduated from Passaic Valley, class of '86 in Little Falls. I have some of the most closest friends to date to this day. We've all graduated high school together and always kept in touch, and we still get together as a group. You know, we have our class of '86 Christmas party where, like, we didn't miss a beat. So I have good memories of high school, but I worked my ass off, right? That's all I know. Everything from a smoothie shop to cutting grass to...
Well, it's in your DNA. It's just who you are.
I'm afraid, as an entrepreneur, I'm afraid to go back to how I used to have to live, right? Paying my rent, having a car payment. Those things scare me. You know, as an adult, I live my life. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have a car payment. I have 100% zero debt. And not a lot of people could say that.
I always say entrepreneurs, they start off their path and they've got these blinders on like horses, right? And they see success at the end and they're just driven. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get from here to success. Then all of a sudden they start making some money. They start getting some level of comfort in their life. The blinders start to open up as they realize, oh my God, this is working. And then that fear sets in. Holy shit, I don't want to go backward.
Yeah, you don't. You're afraid of taking a step back. And let me tell you something, cannabis, you take 2 steps forward, you take 10 steps back. Like I said, it's a financial juggernaut.
So that could be one of the biggest inhibitors for people to continue to have the successes when they're too fearful to not take on any risk.
It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be tired. I say it all the time. Oh my God, I'm done. But you know what? Honestly, my passion now is I got 2 kids, 26 and 22. My daughter's got the entrepreneurial bug. And my son, God bless him, I'm not really sure what he wants to do yet at 26.
And right now he's in the business with you.
He is. He's in all the businesses. But I'm still not sure what he's doing. Don't get me wrong.
Boys, we take a little bit longer to figure out, mature.
Yeah, but at 26 years old, man, I had 20-something employees.
I know.
Right. I didn't have the safety net. You either made it.
There was no plan B.
No, there was no plan B.
No plan B.
No way. You go out and you pull up your pants and you go to work. And at the very least, listen, learn how to use a toolbox. You can go make money anywhere.
So you had said, you like to disrupt. That's your thing. Find an industry, find a concept, find something, and you're going to make a disrupt.
Do it different.
What in your life disrupted you that you had to make the biggest pivot to continue this path of success, to continue to grow? What was the biggest disruptor for you? And how'd you overcome it?
Wow. I've had a lot of disruptors, whether it be athletics. I played football at a very high level. Didn't make it to the NFL. I was lucky enough to play rugby on the U.S. national team. Didn't make any money. I realized I had a lot of fun in my life, right? But didn't get paid to do any of it. Going back to my business, realizing, oh my God, this is just as fun. So it was kind of an eye-opener to me. But I've had setbacks my whole life. Even today, I am your classic glass ceiling guy, right? And my biggest excuse for never being able to break through to the next level was the lack of capital. I've always used my capital, right? I'd rather talk about regrets than what my experiences were. I regret not going to school for finance.
Why?
Money is the root of all evil, but money is also the pathway to success. It does take capital. I would have done it with other people's capital other than my own. As an adult and as a seasoned business owner, I'm starting to learn more and more about the different equity options and investment options. I wish I would have invested sooner in other entities and other opportunities. I wish I would have educated myself better on being able to get money to fund my businesses. I've done it all out of pocket.
As they say with everything, there's 2 sides to every story. The grass is always greener on the other side. That's really your biggest regret, finance?
It is. Yeah, I have no other regrets in life because you know what? I am the person, if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it.
Looks like I got my new course, $1,500 if you want to join.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
I'll work on that with you. Listen, I have it all. But no, I'm the type, I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and no one's going to tell me different. Let me tell you something. If I want to leave here right now and go jump on a plane and go down to Florida and go fishing, I'm going. Don't care. It may only be for a day, but I'm going. Call me selfish, but I will put myself first to make sure everything's in place. I will sacrifice.
I don't call it selfish, because I think that in order to help other people, you have to make sure that you're also kind of in a good spot, good headspace. I mean, if you're going out and you're teaching people and you're there for other people, you can't be there for other people unless you take care of you.
Well, I wish also that I got involved in more of a blueprint type of business, like a franchise, right? They give you the rule book, right? I was so close to investing in Jersey Mike's. Right. But then I'm like, well, the return on the investment is really not all that impressive, but I don't have to reinvent anything.
You don't.
No, there's the blueprint. That's what we're trying to provide in our retail space.
So if you're a franchisor, you can not use your own capital. You can create the model and you can have others follow your model, and then you get paid for it.
This is where we want to deviate from the model, because I want to be on the upside of the back end. With my green tech business, the biggest mistake I made is not collecting residuals on the maintenance of our products. Our independent contractors install the product. We sell it to them. That's it. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
I should have been collecting residuals on that maintenance, creating that long-term income. This is why the subscription service in our clone business is so important. Everything's a subscription service. You can't buy a software program right now unless it's on a subscription. You can't get QuickBooks unless it's on a subscription.
So it's funny. One of the things that in my wealth management business, we talk about how our relationships with clients are more transformational than they are transactional. We got away from the transactional business years ago. And the reason is we want to work on the betterment of the client's behalf. We don't want to have any conflict of interest where you think we're selling you a commissionable product. On the flip side of that, when you're working in an advisory function, there's monthly recurring revenue. So you're constantly building a stream of income, and you're doing it, and it works for both parties. It is really more beneficial for both parties than either way is, because otherwise you're out there selling transaction. Everything has gotten that way. Now,
how do you differentiate yourself? Like in my business, listen, not everybody's in cannabis. Okay. Not everybody's in the green roof and wall business. I'm a niche product in both. You're in wealth management. Not for nothing. Don't take this the wrong way, but there's 1,000,001 of you guys. How do you differentiate yourself?
So,
I'm asking because I'm just as interested in learning from you as you probably are from me.
Yeah, and we do a lot of talking around our differentiation, and it really comes down to our core values. I think it comes down to the fact that you're right. The open market security is available to everybody. You've got people who are passive managers, they're active managers, they're somewhat in between, some that sell insurance, some that just do financial planning. It's but for the most part, everyone's talking the same lingo. However, at the end of the day, how we treat our clients, we bring them into the Greenridge wealth planning family. We are constantly in communication. We are making the proactive phone calls. I think the only way that we could differentiate ourselves is by breaking the mold of what most people think.
So you're an industry disruptor.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
That's it.
Right? Find something and go stick a damn freaking stick in the bee's nest. You're going to piss some people off along the way, but guess what? Oh, well,
it's like the guys who are out on a golf course, right? They're out on a golf course. They're letting their money just manage itself. They're collecting a fee. We piss them off.
Yeah,
we're making them work.
Amen to that. I love pissing people off through success.
Through success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taking their clients. Their clients are coming to us because they're like, wait.
Through success.
We don't want that anymore.
Listen, profit's not a bad word in business, so don't be afraid to charge what your value is. And this is me giving advice. And don't be afraid to be that industry disruptor. Find something and do it different and do it better.
So your monthly recurring revenue, your quarterly, annually recurring revenue, whatever mode that you get it from, like you were talking about the maintenance programs, et cetera, that's usually with the thought process of not only you want money coming in consistently, but there's value to that in an exit strategy. What's your goal for the business? Do you have an exit strategy in mind? Are you building this with the thought of I'm gonna at some point sell it and move on, or what's the plan?
You build a business for a few different reasons. Number one, you're passionate about it and you're gonna die with it. Okay. Number two, you want to pass it on to your family, your kids. Or number three, you build it to sell it and then move on to your next project. I don't see my kids wanting to be involved in our green tech business. It'll probably end up getting sold to one of my top independent contractors, right? And I'll probably sell it very reasonably and collect a residual on that, right? As far as cannabis goes, there's an incredible value to what Phyllis and I have accomplished in the space. Number one, we own multiple licenses in Maine. We have a incredibly successful track record in both the retail space, the tissue culture space, and also cultivation. It's very hard to do all three. Okay, we're getting involved now in manufacturing. So it's just one more skill we're going to learn. But the end goal is to build it, ride some of the revenues for a while, and then eventually what's going to happen is we are going to sell, because either some big MSO is going to offer us a big check, or it's going to go federally legal, and we're either going to have to, again, sell, or we're going to become part of the big picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Competition landscape changes at that point.
It does. So the goal is to sell, right? I'm not, and you know, we have family involved in the business. You know, we have people who have earned their way up the rankings who deserve an exit with us, and we keep that, you know, into consideration. That we have people who rely on us, and selfishly, if we just decide to sell the business and bail on them, what do? So we have a different moral value to our perspective on our model and how we're going to handle it. But the end goal, call it what it is, we're going to sell it.
So being the 5-year fortune teller that you are, what does the next 5 years look like?
Next 5 years, we'll have at least 7 stores in New Jersey up and running under our existing partnership model. Proudly to be able to help other people succeed. That's if you can't help other people, I mean, now you're just being greedy. We want to have that incredible Atlantic City experience. We want to be the next greatest attraction in cannabis.
And what's the name of that experience going to be?
That is Hope Holistic Healthcare is our cannabis business. What we trade under, we don't know yet, but it's going to be an amazing 50,000 square foot facility, four stories high. Imagine some amazing Las Vegas like display, right? We want to be the cat's meow in Atlantic City. Again, the second city of sin. God dang it, let's sin then.
I see the bright lights in the big city already. You know.
Yeah, no, we're excited about it. And again, we are now literally just started the process of finding that $25 million in equity that we need to build the place up. Again, Phyllis and I have a couple million that we use to hire lawyers and professionals and other planners, but the actual construction where we need to take down some money, you know, that's the reality, right? We're going to do this with some outside investment, but you know, we do have an exit strategy. 5 years, it'll be like a adult Disney World for those who like cannabis.
And what does life look like for you after that?
I could be fly fishing on my boat in Florida.
Where in Florida?
Cape Coral. I love fly fishing for tarpon.
Okay.
I have this nice little 17-foot flats boat.
So I've never done that. Is that an exciting fight, or what's the?
Yeah, it'll get your heart going.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love the sun. I grew up surfing. I surf all the time in Atlantic City. I like the outdoors. I backpack. I mountain climb. I spend my free time on top of Mount Washington in minus 20 degree, 50 mile an hour winds. I like the adrenaline. I race mountain bikes as an adult. So yeah, I pushed the limit on.
Where do you go to race mountain bikes?
Oh God, I've ridden everywhere from Breckenridge to actually the old Vernon Valley. Remember the old Vernon Valley? Yeah,
Action Park.
Yeah. Now it's they have mountain biking there. So there's a bunch. A lot of ski resorts have mountain biking now.
My in-laws are over on Steamboat, and we go out there. And when we go in the summer, the mountain bike is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, I love it. We were just my son and I were just in Denver, and then we went over to Snowmass in Utah. But where the hell was I? Jesus Christ, I forget. Breckenridge. We were just in Breckenridge.
Breck's a nice place, yeah. So I know I've taken a lot of your time, and I really appreciate it. What are some parting words that you would offer to people listening to the podcast?
I knew you were going to ask this question. You know, asking for advice, parting words.
I'm going to ask you, then I'll ask you a different way. All right. And I've asked this a couple of times, and I stole this from someone else, and I love it.
It's yours now. I wouldn't have never known.
All right. Well, then I'm good. Then I didn't steal it. It's mine, and I lied. If you got taken off this earth tomorrow, let's say aliens abducted you and they said, on your way off the planet, you can leave 3 things, whether it's 3 parting words of wisdom, whether it's 3 material items or 3 things for your kids that you would leave in the sense of values, what would those 3 things be that you would leave behind that would encapsulate your value that you to your legacy?
I would leave my external drive. It's got everything I've ever written from the time I was in college to now. Everything from SOPs to the books I've written, the drafts. Definitely leave the hard drive to somebody. I would leave my toys, meaning my mountain bike, my fishing gear, right? Somebody else has got to enjoy them. And then I would leave the equity to everything I've ever owned, to frankly, both my kids. I'm hoping that it's not what I leave. I'm hoping the people I've impacted add more value to my parting than I could leave actually parting.
Gotcha.
Right? I hope those that I touched are more impressed by what I did versus what I left them.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, we're at time. I really appreciate you, man. This was a great opportunity to get to know one another, to get to pick your brain a little bit, understand your business and how you operate and how you think. I love the drive. I think it's fantastic.
Well, let's do another one, except I interview you now.
I'm in.
Yeah, you need to have the role reversal. People need to hear your story too, right? I'm interested. Like, how does one get involved in a Dunkin' Donuts? What makes you wake up and say, oh my God, I'm going to buy a Dunkin' Donuts? Because we say this all the time. We want to be the Dunkin' Donuts of cannabis.
So I'll give you my quick background story. So this way you know. So when I graduated college, I graduated with a double major in finance and marketing. From Lehigh University out in PA.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an investment banker. That's what I wanted to do. So I got a job coming out of school. I was a consultant going in and out of asset management firms and hedge funds. I was taking graduate classes at NYU, was taking my CFA, and 9/11 happened. Shortly after 9/11, having an office right across the street, fortunately, I was up at a golf outing meeting for work the day before. So I was up in Boston. I came back, everything was disrupted. We were working at a home. I was doing these classes. I was taking my CFA, and I was starting to have this, kind of like what you said about the tissue culture. I can go in, I know the tissue culture, but I don't want to replicate it. That was the way I was starting to feel about going into all of the analyses that we were doing. I could go in, I can get it done, but do I really want to do this on an ongoing basis? And I think I undersold my need for the human interaction, and I oversold my love for the analytics. And at the time, my father and my mother, within 18 months of one another, also went in for open heart surgery. And my father was franchising Dunkin' Donuts. So I ended up getting into the business. It was the one thing that I promised myself I would never do. And we built it from 20 locations to 40 locations.
Unbelievable. So we'll be calling for advice for sure.
So after 9 years, I left the family business, and my dad did not talk to me for a year. I knew that would always be his business. It would never be my business. And I wanted to get back into finance.
I have the same problem with my son right now, believe it or not. At 26 years old, he's the heir, but you're not the owner. Not yet.
Right. The love and the passion's got to be there. And for me, hindsight's always 20/20. And I've learned a lot in my job and my profession, working with other business owners, going through a lot of the counseling that we help clients go through. Is communication and transparency are the biggest things that help to move a relationship forward or separate in different directions. My father and I did not have great communication or transparency. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of smoke and mirrors. And from my perspective, my dad was young, and I said, Dad, this is never going to be something. I'm not going to sit around for 20 years waiting for you to retire. That's just not my personality.
Yeah.
So I need to do my thing. You do your thing. And who the hell knows what the future brings, but I've got to go chase my love, my passion. And I did that. I built this firm. And like I said, we grew up from $0 to, we have close to $350 million under management. And the unfortunate part of the story is my father passed away a year and a half ago.
Sorry to hear that. Wow.
And when he passed, fortunately, we had mended our relationship. He had started to ask me once he started to see that I was successful, and he was very much in tune with where I spent money and how I spent money. He goes, "What are you doing? can you help me with my stuff? And I said, Dad, I love you. This father-son thing is working out really well.
Leave it at that.
We're not working together. And he says, well, I don't want you to come work for me. I go, no. But I am going to end up working for you if you become a client. And I'd rather just give you advice. So that advice turned into when he got sick, I realized that the other professionals that were helping him weren't doing what they needed to do. I had to come in, close a lot of the gaps. I was the executive of state. Ended up becoming the CEO of the Duncan franchise. And when he passed, I had a hell of an undertaking to restructuring, reformatting, pulling the right people on place, making sure that not only the right people were on the bus, but they were in the right seats. Because I have this that was growing at 30, 40% a year as well. So, it's been a learning curve for me from the sense of owning one successful business to owning multiple successful businesses. And thankfully, I grew up not too dissimilar from you. We were the poorest rich people. My dad, I never knew. I could have, for all I knew, even working with him, owning 20 and building another 20, he was break even. Now, did you grow up with any sort of situation like that? Because I have the same affliction as you, from the sense of, if you tell me I can't do it, you bet your ass I'm doing it.
When I was my dad was very abusive physically to my mother. So growing up, we couldn't. He had a drinking problem. He gambled a lot, so we suffered because of his afflictions. But by the time I was 16, or 15, my mother finally divorced him. And, my mother wasn't educated. She had 2 $8 an hour jobs. So I'm the oldest of 4. So I've always been the band leader, always the cheerleader, always getting people excited. Always paying the bills. Again, just happened to be a good athlete. That's how I got to college. Otherwise, we weren't doing it. Knock on wood, thank God. The work ethic is clearly brushed off on my siblings. My middle brother John's a retired state detective. My brother Mike is now a private pilot. My sister is a school superintendent, and none of us ever got in trouble. We always did the right thing. It worked out well. And unfortunately, we lost my mom to COVID, but she gave us the stability, and I say the ability to survive. My mother too is first generation. My grandmother's from Sicily, and my mother's like your dad, first generation Italian. And I grew up having dinner every Sunday at grandma's, and that was it. And we were left to fend for ourselves. And you pull your freaking pants up, you go to work. So my fear comes from going back to not knowing if I'm going to eat today or not.
Well, that's your baseline. That's what your baseline is.
Unlike my kids who don't have a cell phone payment, they don't have a car payment. They have as long as they're being productive, they have a safety net. I didn't have that. We talked about it earlier. You either get it done or there's no plan B. There's no failure. I don't know what to tell you.
It's amazing how much opportunity is out there if you're willing to put forth the effort to get it. I was listening to something silly, and it was if you drove here today, how many red cars did you see?
Couldn't tell you.
But if I told you, when you drive home, how many red cars are you going to see? When you get home, you're going to be able to tell me, because now you're noticing it. And luck is the same way. If you're never looking for the luck, if you're never looking for the fortune, you're never going to find it, because it's not going to find you. And I thought that was a pretty impactful analogy to how most people view their day to day is, I'm just going to get through the day. I'm just going to get through the week.
The CEO of Borgata came over from Las Vegas to build Borgata. He was from Boyd Gaming. And it's one of the most successful casinos. And he moved into my building, and we would go to dinner all the time, pick my brain over the littlest of things. And I was like, why do you care about the scones or the time of ballet? Because it's really, really important to me, the little details. And he goes, look at you and your business. You work so hard. I said, well, I'm lucky. He goes, Phyllis, luck? What's luck have to do with your business? You work so hard, and those little details are so important.
Mm-hmm.
Luck plays a role, because everybody says to me,
there's got to be a little luck.
I'm so lucky. Why me?
Right place, right time.
Right?
But you create your luck.
You create your own luck, and that's what I say to people. I'm positive. Like, he'll say, oh, what do you say? My sparkle dust.
Oh yeah, she runs around with her unicorn that shit sparkles.
Well, you think about a room full of people, right? I walk into a room full of people and there's 100 people. I walk in with, straight faced. I go around, I shake a couple of hands. I walk out of the room and I go, that was just a waste of time. Now let's switch this scenario. I walk in with a shit-eating grin and a hop in my step, and I start shaking hands and talking to people and asking them questions about who they are, what they're about. And all of a sudden I end up with, let's say, 2 new clients, 3 new clients. Oh man, that was great. That person says, oh, you're so lucky. No, and that's the difference, right? How are you approaching life? How are you approaching the people that you're meeting? How are you approaching the things that you're doing? And if you're doing it without the intent of finding the opportunity, it's not going to find you.
No, I have a great story of a life and the successes, but to your point, it doesn't happen by me walking into a room going, yeah, whatever.
Well, listen, I appreciate you, man. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much.
Phyllis, for bringing them by.